Nearly every load of laundry on Earth runs through one Danish company you've probably never heard of. Their enzymes are inside Tide, Ariel, Persil, and 7th generation. They're also inside your bread, your biofuel, and your yogurt. And their financial margins look more like software than chemistry. This is the margin. Today we're breaking down AP Moller-Maersk. Founded in 1904 in a Danish town called Svendborg by a father and son with one ship. It was, for almost a century, primarily a shipping company. It is not today primarily a shipping company. The most interesting question in global logistics right now is, what has Maersk actually become, and why hasn't the market caught up? Start with the segments. In 2025, Maersk's ocean business, the actual shipping, brought in $35 billion in revenue. That sounds enormous until you look at what came out the other end. $1.4 billion in operating profit, about a 4% margin. For comparison, the segments most people think of as small, logistics and services at $15.1 billion and terminals at $5.3 billion, quietly turned in operating margins of nearly 5% and over 30%, respectively. Read that again. The terminals business, the ports, the cranes, the container yards, earns a margin 7 times what the shipping business does. Every other dollar of profit at Maersk now comes from somewhere other than shipping. That isn't a temporary swing. It's a structural fact. Why is shipping a 4% margin business? Because shipping is broken right now. Container freight rates per 40-foot equivalent unit, the standard industry measure, averaged about $2,081 in the first quarter of 2026. A year earlier, that number was over $2,400, a 14% drop. And the drop isn't because demand collapsed. Maersk actually moved 9% more containers in Q1 2026 than in Q1 2025. The drop is because the entire industry over-ordered ships during the pandemic boom, and those ships are arriving now. The result? Maersk's ocean business reported revenue down 8% year over year and slipped into the red on operating earnings. This is where the actual story is. In 2016, under Maersk's previous CEO, Soren Skou, the company announced what it called the Integrator strategy. The pitch sounded boring at the time. Instead of just moving containers from port A to port B, Maersk would build out the entire end-to-end supply chain: warehousing, customs brokerage, last-mile trucking, the terminal infrastructure, the whole network. In 2023, Vincent Clerc took over as CEO. He has, by every public statement, doubled down. The Integrator strategy is not a side project anymore. It is the entire thesis. Logistics and services revenue grew to $15.1 billion. Operating earnings in that segment grew 36%. The shipping business is the legacy. The logistics business is the future. And here is the piece almost nobody outside the industry is reporting. APM Terminals, Maersk's ports and terminals business, pulled in $5.3 billion in 2025 revenue. That was 20% year-over-year growth. Operating margins above 30%. But the most important number is this: 63% of terminals revenue comes from customers other than Maersk's own shipping line. Almost 2/3 of APM Terminals revenue comes from Maersk's competitors, from MSC, from Hapag-Lloyd, from CMA CGM. APM Terminals isn't a captive port operator that exists to serve Maersk's ships. It's an independent infrastructure business that happens to sit inside Maersk's corporate structure. So what does this mean for anyone paying attention? 3 things. First, when freight rates make the news, those headlines are about a business that contributes less than half of Maersk's operating profit. The freight rate cycle and Maersk's actual financial cycle have decoupled. Second, the strategic moat is the network. Terminals plus the integrated logistics layer is not a commodity. It takes decades to build, billions in capex to replicate, and the network effects compound. Third, the market still prices Maersk primarily as a shipping cyclical. If the integrator thesis is right, and the segment data through Q1 2026 says it is, that pricing is increasingly disconnected from the underlying business. The 2025 numbers say Maersk has already quietly become something else. That's the Maersk story for 2026. If you want the company breakdowns nobody else is doing, the foreign companies, the boring but profitable industrials, the ones the financial press isn't covering, subscribe. New videos, Tuesdays and Fridays. See you then.